and I don't want to like put myself back in old habits or like ways of thinking. And I think it's just like I'm a little bit apprehensive about like what it's gonna be like. So I've just been like kind of frozen lately.
Yeah. When you say overwhelmed,
Mhm.
is it what you talked about in terms of like just being in the environment again, or is it the people?
It's kind of the people, more than the environment, and I think it's a mixture of both. But I have like really incredible friends from college, but I think that like I've I've kind of grown apart from them in a way, not like necessarily in love for each other, but like more just styles of life. And like a lot of them live in New York and like Austin and DC and like just fast-paced environments that are like a lot different than what I've been doing for the last 3 years. And I think that it's just like more, I don't know, I don't want to like get back into an old style of living or like partying and you know.
So it sounds like you've made a big lifestyle change, and this is the first time that you're going to kind of be confronted with your old lifestyle.
Yeah.
So maybe something that would be good for us to do today is really maybe even like set up some goals or plans, or I mean rules is a little strong, but just guidelines for yourself that would maybe help you feel a little more comfortable going into that environment.
Yeah, definitely. I think that I need that because I can like tend to, I don't know. So to give you a little bit more background, I just have a very like flexible kind of personality, and it's like I can adapt easily to situations and kind of just like please the people I'm around. And so in college, that was my kind of like identity almost of just like being like I had so much fun, but I was kind of just like a very go with the flow person, and I could be influenced by people's personalities, like in our friend group, just stronger personalities. And it makes me kind of like not get pushed around, but like kind of like just the butt of a joke sometimes and stuff like that. And
so I think, you know, when you do have such a flexible personality, it's not a bad thing. But I see what you mean when, you know, it's easier for you to just kind of go along with what everybody's doing. And so maybe, you know, going back to the goals and the guidelines for yourself, that way you don't feel like you're just getting pushed around. You're just kind of like going along with what everyone is saying, and maybe going in with those guidelines beforehand will really help you feel more in control. Maybe you can almost kind of begin to lead in your own way, even if it's just for yourself.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that like I always, it's weird because like I have this like part of me that's like very, like I feel like a leader in my old like upbringing, and like I have like autonomy, and then for some reason like when I went to Georgia, that was like stripped from me because of I think the people I was around. And so I think that like when I left, I've developed that back again, and I'm afraid, like I'm more just like fearful that I'm gonna be, I don't know, in that environment again and feel like
I noticed you said stripped.
Yeah.
Those are very strong words. Did you go there alone? You know, like what was the situation there?
Yeah, I did. I graduated from high school in Florida. I grew up here my whole life, and then I just applied to Georgia, and no one else. I didn't know anyone going there, and I didn't mind it. Like I had a great transition, and it was easy and fast and fun. But I think that like it was such a transformative period of my life that like I kind of like started a new identity outside of me, and it almost like looking back feels like I was stripped of like my who I was before.
So when you say stripped, it's almost like that's really being taken away.
Yeah.
So do you feel like who you were before was taken away from you, or do you feel like maybe the change that you saw in yourself, or the change that happened was just so different that maybe you became a new person, or do you really feel like it was just taken?
I feel like it was taken.
Yeah.
And I say that because I had a friend who was just very controlling and kind of manipulative, and just she was a part of my life for all 4 years of that experience in college. So and like I said earlier, it was like just a natural way of I kind of just like put people before my own needs. And I've learned like throughout the last 4 years that I need to like consider my own well-being too. And so that's kind of like the stripped part. It's almost like I'm like a little, like I feel like I lost that part of myself.
Something that I noticed you said is you've learned over the last 4 years that you need to consider yourself. Is that something that you think you knew before you went to college?
I think that I was always around people that loved me and supported me so much that like I never even needed to.
Yeah.
And like I was like, I don't know, I just had such a beautiful childhood and life before this that like I just wasn't even like thinking about my own needs because they were met, and it wasn't like it just was a give and take between my friends and family. And then I think like I was really naive going to college about, because I was like living this great life with friendships and family, and like I didn't really know how people operated sometimes, where like I got really taken advantage of and just like walked all over. And I was like in my freshman year just so confused. Like it was just a lot of like learning kind of on my own because I didn't have a therapist then. But I don't know.
The reason I ask if you feel like you were aware of that when you were younger is because I feel like you've really expressed that you know now that you need to like consider what you want and your needs first. So maybe instead of looking at this as I'm going back to a place where certain people walked all over me and I'm afraid to fall into those habits again, you know, maybe we can look at this in a way where it's like in the past, in this space, like this person could walk all over me. I have grown over these years. I know what I need. I know what I want, and maybe the next step is knowing how to implement that, because I think you have the foundation. So I feel like maybe you're just not sure how to kind of express that with them.
You know, like when as you were saying that, I noticed that like it just brought this up for me right now. I think that I know that I can do that, but I'm almost like I don't want to, because I'm afraid that I'm gonna lose them. And I'm afraid that like that's not gonna, because that's been like the foundation of my friends, just like I don't know, just being like that flexible, happy-go-lucky, like not needless, but like just go with the flow person. I'm like, are they still gonna love me and want to be around me if I'm not that person anymore?
And I think that's a very fair way to be feeling, you know. I think implementing new boundaries with people who have very strong personalities, you've always had a specific role in, or you guys have just always had a really certain dynamic, that's really scary because you don't know how they're going to react. But I think at the end of the day, it's really a matter of, you know now you have to take care of yourself and your needs first. So I think maybe we should think of some ways where you could do that without necessarily it being something that's, I don't want to say a big deal, but in a way that just feels very natural and not like, because this doesn't have to be
a huge dramatic thing.
I have these boundaries. It can really just be more in the way that you carry yourself over the weekend. So I think let's start with what's one way that you could see yourself implementing a boundary with this friend where it's like, I know I don't want to do this from now. So how can I establish that?
I think that like from the start of being around her specifically, I could just voice like how much I've grown first, and like not even like, I think in the way that I carry myself too, just having more of like a presence in the room rather than like having her overpower me in social situations and stuff. And like, I don't know, just maybe like developing, because like a lot of this comes from her trying to like overpower me in every area, like whatever social situation we were in, she wanted to be better than me, and I just like didn't want to compete. So I made myself a lot like smaller than I was, and I just kind of assumed that role. And I think that that's one thing, like area that I think I could start is just being the person that I am apart from like when I'm around her.
And I mean, it's been 3-4 years since you've been around her. You're a different person now, and I think that what you said, that's a great idea, from the beginning. Make it known, not in a very big way, but just, I'm a new person now, it's been 3 years, this is not the same situation where I'm just gonna sit back. And I mean, you obviously have friendships where you can be yourself, and have your own opinion. And I think it's important for you to just see this and behave in the same way, or try to. I know it's hard, but really try to just
be that.
Be yourself.
And I think that it's like, it's so weird because it's only in this specific environment, and everywhere else I'm like, okay, whatever. And I don't think about it. But now that I'm like about to go for the weekend, I'm like mostly excited. But on the other hand, I'm like, I'm almost just like afraid that she's gonna take my growth from me again, and like take the like strong identity that I have and chip away at it. And I'm like, I don't know, I think I'm just being protective over myself.
Which is very fair. And I think you also have to remember when you met her, you were, what, 18? I'd say you were in a new place, you didn't know anybody. And I think it's really easy to fall under really dominant people, And I think it's really important just to remind yourself, I'm not 18, I am an adult, I have my thoughts, I have my opinions, they're okay, I'm secure, like, you have to just remind yourself, like, I'm secure in who I am, and I think really just almost going in with those mantras, even around her, to like, as the days are going on, if you feel yourself kind of like falling back into that role, remind yourself, like, I'm not this person anymore. How does that sound?
So good. I think that it's like, it's just helpful to have a framework of thinking too, going into it, because as much as like it could just be so easy, but I think that I'm so much more self-aware now that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go into this like being cognizant and mindful of the things that like I don't want to do.
Yeah.
And another thing is like I don't drink a lot, and I feel like that's just like the weekend that we're gonna have because it's going back to college and being at a football game, tailgating, and like I know that a lot of my friends are also on the same page too, kind of like we've grown up, but I don't know, it's just being in the environment again is a little icky. It feels just like I love my friends, I love the experience that we had, but I'm just like, do we have to part?
Continue. Yeah. So I think that goes with the same thing of having those preset boundaries for yourself, you know?
Yeah.
Because if you are worried that you're gonna fall into this pattern, if this dominant personality really pushes it, you know, if you go in saying, you know, I don't really want to have more than like a certain number of drinks a night, or you know, after a certain time, you know, I'm ready to go home, and really reminding yourself and sticking to that, I think that'll help you feel a lot better.
Yeah.
What would that look like for you, you think? Like, what would kind of boundaries that sound like that be for you?
I think it would be good. I think that my issue with boundaries, which is something that I know I need to work through, is just that I don't want to disappoint anyone. And like sometimes I feel like setting a boundary makes me feel worse because I feel guilty.
Yeah.
And it's not even like it's just one of those things where I'm like, is it even helpful to like, yes it is, but like sometimes setting boundaries is like a little sad because I'm like, oh well now I'm missing out on fun, or I'm like maybe disappointing someone, and you know where sometimes you're just like torn. And but I know that it would be like good.
Maybe what we can do is shift the way that you're looking at boundaries even. You know, because your boundary can be a very personal thing and not necessarily something that you have to announce or include everybody on. You know, so you can have your personal boundary where it's like, you know, I know that after this like a couple of drinks, if I'm feeling a certain way, like I'm just gonna like quietly stop drinking, like I'll still hang out, but that'll just kind of be my limit. And where I just stop, you know. That doesn't mean that you have to like, get up and walk out. But it just means you're like, this is my boundary of comfort within myself. You know, it's not something that you have to announce to everybody. It can just be within you. You know, that way, you know, you don't feel like you're not inhibiting on anybody's time. You're just respecting what you want for yourself.
Definitely. I know I've never really thought about, like I have kind of just like implicitly have boundaries, but I don't know, that's really helpful for me. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. You have to shift, it's really important to shift how we're looking at it, especially because you keep saying, you know, I don't want to ruin anything for anybody, or I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable, or I don't want to feel guilty, you know. But at the end of the day, this is very personal to you. You know, this is your experience, and also you're not moving back in with these people.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
It's a weekend. At the end of the day, you have to come home to yourself. So I think it's important to have that. So like let's start laying these out. So like what's one boundary that from now you can say like, I know that this is something that it's like something I don't want to cross here, or this is where I want to leave it.
Like a limit on how many drinks I'll have. So like 2 or 3, and then I think I'm good after that, like for this weekend. And then also I want to like, I don't know, because this is very, sorry, I'm thinking so. This is kind of just like a huge social environment with lots of people that like fraternities, sororities, everyone knew each other, everyone was connected, and I know that everyone's gonna be there, and it's just gonna be a lot of like socializing and a lot of like, hey, what have you been doing the last 3 years? Like small talk. I think I want to set a boundary of like, I don't have to talk to everyone.
I think that's a great boundary. Yeah.
Because I haven't even considered that until now. It's just like been my personality to like talk to every single person and like be fully involved in the day and like social. And I feel like it's so draining. Like I actually don't have to talk to everyone.
You don't, yeah. And I think even, you're saying like this is gonna be a full day, this is a lot of people. Maybe even like pre-setting a time to your day.
Yeah,
Where
we
it's
have
like-
to take this bus from Atlanta to Athens, so we won't leave till like 12. We get there at like 12 and leave at 12. So I'm like, how do I?
Well, maybe starting off in the morning, taking time, having a very quiet, grounding morning,
Yeah.
so that way you can go into this really fresh.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, giving yourself the space where it's like, okay, if I notice that I'm overwhelmed,
Yeah.
it's okay, just literally walk away for 5 minutes.
And another thing is like, I make it sound like my friends are not like my real friends, but I'm so hard on myself, and like I know that if I were like, hey, I'm overwhelmed, they would 110% be like,
Yeah.
I love you, let's go take a break, like
Yeah.
walk to Chick-fil-A or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, I think it's just like I more just feel that's the people pleaser in me that like doesn't wanna be be needy.
So I think there's 2 ways you could go about this.
Mhm.
You can make it something where you give yourself the permission within you to say, if I need 5 minutes quietly, I'm just gonna walk away,
Mm-hmm.
take 5 minutes, do whatever you need to do, go to the bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
take some time, and then I'll come back.
Yeah.
And it's not really something you need to acknowledge. If someone
Mhm.
asks you, hey, I just went to the bathroom really quick, and you can have that.
Yeah.
And if you feel like you need some support, talk to one of your friends beforehand and be like,
Yeah.
I'm a little worried, like if I need to step away, would you mind coming with me?
Yeah.
Just beforehand, so you don't feel like in the moment you're
Yeah.
imposing or.
Mm-hmm. That's a
How
good.
does that sound?
Yeah, that's really smart and would be useful for me because I also think that would like challenge me to just kind of rewire this way of thinking that like it's bad to need people or like bad to rely on friends. I don't know why it's like that's not like it's not like a necessarily a big thought that I have, but it's just like I feel like I'm inconveniencing people if I'm like, come to the bathroom with me or like take a break.
I understand, but let's think about it. If one of your friends said, Angela, I'm so overwhelmed right now, I really need to take a step away.
I would be like, totally.
There you go.
Yeah.
And if your friends love you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want them to ask you, then I think it's really okay. You have to allow yourself to ask.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
So besides taking a step away, having those like limits on yourself in terms of like how much do you want to be drinking,
Mm-hmm.
what else can we work on?
I think just like I need a boundary of like my thoughts too, because for some reason like I think one of the things I'm worried about is like self-esteem as I go into the weekend because I have worked so hard at like building myself back up after a lot that I've been through these last few years, and like I know that being in this environment and with the like just around these people is going to be like kind of a threat to the way I'm viewing myself, just because it's like old patterns of drinking and going out and like anxious, I don't know, just that lifestyle is like a little bit
That's a lot.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that I would just want to have like I want to be able to keep the same framework of thoughts about who I am too, and just like like I am a child of God, like I'd like to keep that going through my head as the weekend goes on, so that I'm not like
Mm.
just getting down on
Yeah.
myself, I guess.
I think that goes back towards your boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that you just need to implement that as well.
Yeah.
You know, if it's something that you're concerned about,
Mm-hmm.
add that to your list.
Yeah, like discipline.
Yeah, just maybe make it a part of your day. Just consistently check in with yourself and be like, okay, like,
Yeah.
do my current morals and beliefs and
Mm-hmm.
outlook on the world align with how I'm behaving right now?
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, and if you find yourself saying no, they don't,
Yeah.
you know, shift.
Mm-hmm.
You know, take a second, step back, reflect on that, and maybe walk away or just
Yeah.
change what you're doing. How does
No,
that
and
sound?
that's so helpful because typically, like, I'm aware when they're not aligning, and like on big weekends like this, it's just like so social and fun that I'm like, I'll deal with it like on Monday.
Yeah.
And like that's not healthy and that's not good. So I'm like, okay, I just need a little bit more of like discipline to
Mm-hmm.
just like check in with myself and then be aware of like when I need to maybe change a thought or change a behavior or, you know, just like
Yeah.
align.
I think, you know, this goes back to how you said, you know, I've grown so much. You've learned so much, you know, you are a different person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do think those check-ins will be helpful. And I think, again, it's that mantra of like, I have grown, I am different,
Yeah.
you know, like I am a child of God and I do want to live this way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
Yeah.
I think you have to, but not look at it from a way of like being upset with yourself or
Yeah.
just kind of just allowing, like, just acknowledge and shift.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that way, at the end of this, you don't come out feeling any sort of guilt or you're not upset.
Yeah.
And again, remembering that this is a personal situation.
Yeah.
It doesn't, you know, I feel like a big thing for you is everybody else. You know, you don't
Yeah.
want, make it for you.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I know, and I need to keep that in mind because there's a lot of my friends also are going through stuff right now, whether it's like one of my best friends just broke up with her boyfriend of like 7 years, and there's also like two of the girls, it's like an 18 girlfriend group, which is huge, and there's like a few of them that are kind of not on the best terms because of something that happened. And I think that there's just a lot I'm going into this weekend knowing that like it's gonna be a little heavy too, and like I'm gonna be like listening to people a lot and just kind of like, I think maybe that's where I'm like feeling a little weird too, is that it feels like a little bit more of my job sometimes, and like I don't really care to, like I have also been through so much and it's not something that I've like divulged with my friends, like detail to detail. And I think that like subconsciously sometimes I feel like I'm always helping people. Like I wish that I could be selfish sometimes.
I mean, I think you can't look at it as selfish.
Yeah.
You have to consider it more, again, just a boundary for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so this weekend, you know, this is a fun weekend. It's a social weekend, and it's okay if you don't want to kind of be fielding all of these very deep conversations when you know you really are just trying to have a good time.
Yeah.
And I think that it would be okay for you, or I would say more, what would it look like for you? How do you think you can start to implement a boundary from the beginning of like not allowing people to kind of take over your day with like very deep, heavy topics?
Yeah, I think that I'm at a place now where like I can kind of communicate that and be like, sorry, I'm hiccuping. Just like I am a little tired right now. I think that it like I know that I'm secure in these relationships anyways, so I just like I've kind of lost that part of me, which is good, that like needs to be there 24/7. Like I think that I'm okay with being like, this has been a little heavy today, like can we take a little bit of a break and to come back to it in a little bit. And just like also, I don't know, I feel like I see other people doing that in our friend group too, and it's like, okay, it's fine if I like
yeah, it's okay if you do it too.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with saying like, hey, I'd love to talk to you about this. I'd love to go into this. Like, let's set up a time.
Yeah.